They sprinkled LSD on their cornflakes every morning, which was then washed down with Johnny Walker Red. Beer for lunch, lowly Mexican dirtweed smoked in bone-dry bongs for dinner, and then 2 hours of coughing fits and another bowl of LSD an hour before showtime. And those are the words of the mighty Mark Kramer, one-time bassist for the Butthole Surfers, and as the perfect encapsulation of the band that we are going to dedicate episode 253 of the Grunge Bible podcast to. We're surfing today, Ethan. How the hell are you?
We're the buttholes, dude. I'm
Yeah,
doing
we
well,
are.
man. I'm doing well, dude. I'm especially jacked up and excited to talk about the buttholes.
I'm pretty jacked off to talk about the Butthole Surfers.
Yeah.
You were not expecting a Butthole Surfers Grunge Bible podcast episode, and we are more than happy.
They've been waiting for it. Maybe somebody
People have
out
been
there
clamoring for it.
Yeah, so we're excited. Yeah, episode 253.
253. Right? Yep, you better believe it. Yep. January 26th.
So that'll be our topic today. We did a little deep dive in the last few days because we're coming off the heels of a nice Melvin's Houdini synopsis and talk about. We decided to continue with the bands that influenced the early. Influenced the grunge and the loud music of the 90s. And so more bands coming that are probably not usually talked about much. Or
we're a few weeks late, but one of the ins for 2026 is going to the source. And we're going to the people that were there when it was created. And the Butthole Surfers were certainly one of those groups, going back into the late 70s, early 80s is when they started. And, this is ground zero for a lot of the shit that we came to know and love.
It's definitely going to be a fun, interesting topic to discuss. I'm sure this discussion is going to be really fun. We're by no means experts. I don't think it's possible unless you were there. I don't even know if they would consider themselves experts when
just
they talk about their band.
levels of absurdity.
It is incredibly craziness, and you don't see it in bands these days like they used to.
You don't get this anymore.
You really don't. So there's a time and a place, and we're going to talk about them. I'm pretty excited. But before we do that, Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Ethan. Very, very excited to be discussing the Butthole Surfers today with you. We're closer to the end of this week than we are the beginning. We're recording this on Thursday evening, afternoon. Busy weekend upcoming. We have a massive snowstorm that's about to hit, the mid-Atlantic on up to here in New England. In excess of 2 feet of snow are coming in on Sunday into Monday. Kind of muddies the plans. I'm supposed to be competing in a weightlifting competition on Sunday afternoon. I feel like there's a non-zero chance it gets canceled. But my consolation, if it does get canceled, is I will get to watch the AFC Championship with the fellas as the Pats have somehow weaseled their way back in after a short hiatus. But things are pretty good. A little under the weather the last couple of days, which is a huge bummer. I was sick for a large portion of the end of December and beginning of January, and I thought I shook it. But whatsoever I feared has come to light once again. And it's back. But that's okay. We'll take it as it comes, and that's all we can do. So I'm pretty good. Change of scenery for you. How are you? This is one last time for the Gipper in Birmingham, huh?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm back in the old bedroom here. I just drove yesterday. I left Pennsylvania and I drove 1,000 miles here to Birmingham. I just got in like 45 minutes, an hour ago. And we
so naturally the first thing we need to do.
The first thing you do is record a podcast. We talked about we were going to do it before I left Tuesday. We got a busy weekend ahead, but we decided to give ourselves some time to listen, and we chose the Buttholes, and we decided that we wanted to have time to listen to it and then digest it. And thank God we did. I think it's a good idea to do this episode now. So, I just had like 24 hours on the road. I listened to a lot of the music and met up with an old friend. Got to talk, have a really nice, solid night. And it was a great time. So it's good. It feels good to be back on the road. Got a lot of feelings coming down here one last time. Going to move the stuff back at the end of the trip, this 2-week trip. So yeah, a lot going on, but it's exciting, and I need to get up and move. So I'm happy to be doing some stuff.
Nice, man. I'm pretty fired up about that.
That's good. So all in all, it sounds like we're both doing pretty well.
I would say so.
Yeah. So if you're out there listening, if this is your first time listening, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Picked a great one to start with.
You picked a great one to start. we have a ton of topics, a ton of stuff that we've talked about, so you can go back and check them out. If you're a longtime listener, you've made it to the Butthole Surfer episode, which is great. And a lot of there's a few
The
people
surfer's
that,
butt.
yes,
The brothers
there's some people that choose to support us via Patreon, and they give us a few bucks each month. That can be at a $2, $5, $10 level. So if you are listening and maybe you feel so inclined, it's time to get on board. Maybe support us. Just because we need some, sometimes we need some external motivation to keep this thing rolling. I mean, the streak, gives us motivation enough, but
well, that's the thing. Like we've been doing this podcast for almost 5 years, and it kind of happens in its own bubble between you and I. And sometimes you get bogged down, and like you just really never know how you look through other people's eyes at some point. We don't mind the sun sometimes, and if some people can give us some validation by giving us their money, it makes the world go round.
I mean, I think that, the general listener, I know some of you know what it takes to put into a podcast, but a lot of you don't too. So, you just see it every week. But me and Chris, we stress about the topics here. We don't know what to talk about. And
we're like, laboring.
We are laboring trying to set this up. So, just, think of us sometimes, would you?
Absolutely. You might as well think about the other guy for a change. Now's the time where I can thank the top tier supporters. Now, in addition to the $2, $5, and $10 tiers, you can choose your own adventure and contribute at a level that you are comfortable with. And Ethan, we have some movement at the top. I have received correspondence from the Cracker Man, and the Cracker Man is now tied with Abraham and Frank at the top of the totem pole. Wow. So we just received a message a short time ago from the Cracker Man saying you're welcome for raising the level. Love what you guys do, and and love that you guys are getting serious about the Melvins. Well, now we're talking about Seattle scene royalty. Had to lift up the support. Stay heavy, dudes. See, that fires me up. That's how we're looking through other people's eyes.
That's how we're doing the right thing, getting into it right now.
Absolutely. When the Cracker Man raises the level. So the Cracker Man is tied with Abraham and Frank way up at the top, followed by the Legion of top tier supporters, which are at this time Jamie Lynn, Carlene Salona, What the Fuck is Up, Denny's, Doug Endy, Nikki Six, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, Black Hole Sean, Eddie Vertigo, Me Through My Second Divorce, Sherry Matthews, Gochu John Russell, King Buzzo Stole My Hair, The Michael Dooley Project, A Bit Dusty, Ultra Mega OK, Heidi in Chains, Looking California, Feeling Minnesota, and the recent addition, Chris Buckley. I guess we haven't done anything to piss Chris off because they're still here after a week. So I'm very, very happy about that. And that
King Buzzo Stole My Hair. I wonder if.
Yeah, we need to hear from King Buzzo Stole My Hair about the Melvins episode. I'll reach out. I'll reach out to that whose hair has been stolen. And
I want to know. They better have the Buzz haircut.
Yeah,
not
seriously. Buzz stole it from them.
That's I'm hoping that it's
I hope
true.
they grew it back. Yeah, exactly.
I hope it's not stolen valor.
Well, I'll tell you, Buzz is getting a little older. I can't imagine. I would love to know what his hair care routine or lack thereof looks like.
He's been rocking that hair for a long time.
Forever, man. Since the beginning. So
I do want a little editorial note. I got shout out to our top level patron, Doug. Doug has tics. He did text me last week, and I noticed this when it happened last week. But when I was describing Buzz's singing, I said it sounded like Metallica, and I actually said the way that it sounded like Lars, but Lars doesn't sing. He plays the drums. He just sent me a text in quotes. It said sounds like Lars, and I was just like, man. I said it, and it should have said James Hetfield, but
lying is in 2026.
But like he said, I was just seeing if people were paying attention. Chris,
exactly,
you didn't catch it, Chris.
Yeah, I was slacking off, man. I was doodling in my notebook while the lecture was going on.
So funny, but yeah, so a little mess up. I think it's all good. They all sound alike, right?
This is like the earlier days of PTI when Tony Reale would make the corrections.
Oh yeah, dude. Reale, man.
Dude, the king.
That's funny.
Absolutely. Excuse me. So before we get into this episode, we have a couple of This Day in Music events for January the 26th. And we'll start in 1955. And this was the day that Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist of Van Halen, was born. And he passed away a few years ago, but, goes without saying. I think we were doing the podcast at the time that he passed away. I can't quite remember, though. But, one of the most influential and transcendent and innovative guitarists to ever roam the earth. And Ethan, are you a Van Halen guy?
Not much more than just admiring his guitar playing. I mean, I like some of their songs, but it's not like I definitely don't go there like for casual listening. I like it in stadiums, or you throw on some Pantera or some that Van
Everybody
Halen
who was
and
inspired
whatnot.
by Van Halen, yeah.
Yeah. I can get down with it, but I'm not the hugest fan, I'll say.
Yeah, every now and then. I mean, my exposure to Van Halen these days is pretty much limited to what I hear in classic rock radio. You get a little eruption, a little running with the devil every now and then. A little Panama for sure. Get some of that in there. I remember when I was in college, I think I was a junior, but myself and my thrower teammates got really into the song Panama, and like we would listen to it like every single time we lifted, and it was pretty heat.
Yeah, it's good song, right?
I would say so.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, I guess it's my turn, huh? In 1973.
Unless you want me to do it.
Elton John issues his sixth studio album, Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, in America. And the album features Crocodile Rock.
Heater.
What a great title.
Dude, Elton Hercules John, man.
Yeah, don't shoot me. I'm just the piano player.
That's it, dude. Sometimes it's that simple.
Don't shoot the messenger.
We've got 53 years down the road for that record.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. I said the dates are getting later and later, older and older.
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, quick this day in music. So
surgical.
Yep. Happy birthday, Eddie Van Halen, and congratulations, Elton John.
I know you're out there.
John. Yeah, I know you're out there listening.
Sir Hercules John, Elton. Thank you.
All right, now to the meat and potatoes
the main
of the
event.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to attempt to get into the Butthole Surfers, and when I say attempt, I mean we're going to give a macro analysis of how we see their influence. And I think when I first got into this, I mean, I knew their song Pepper, and I knew I knew the Butthole Surfers, the name, and people would reference them a lot as big influences. I knew that they were punk rock and weird,
psychedelic, everything.
I didn't necessarily know how weird they were, how psychedelic they were, how phallic and raunchy their stuff could get. All the I didn't realize that they were in this vein, that they really they influenced the Bloodhound gangs of the world. I mean, Primus is starting up around the same time, but it's right in the really weird time of history where, all this stuff was, I guess, allowed, and it's just the way people were thinking or something. And everybody was on drugs, and I believe it.
Well, that's the thing. This is akin to used to happen all the time back in the day, where there'd be a neighborhood near a nuclear reactor, and some sort of catastrophe would happen, and then you can't go into that neighborhood anymore.
Yeah.
Like this neighborhood of music existed for a while. People were raising families in this neighborhood, and then something bad happened, and people just don't make music like this anymore. Don't go anywhere near it. And this is kind of an interesting episode too, because I don't know the last time that we've done an episode that's more or less first impressions from us about a band, because typically we like to talk about things that we know a lot about, and this is certainly not one of those. But so many thoughts are ping ponging around our heads right now about this band, because I don't even think. I knew the song Pepper, and I knew that they had toured with some of the bands that we talk about a lot here, and they were always on some of them. But I didn't really know anything about their history, or about certainly the extent of the strangeness of their discography. And talk about biting off all I can chew and then a little bit extra with this band.
Yeah, and like I said, when I got into it, it's all right, I know their sound, I know they're weird, but then I didn't realize how psychedelic they were, how far they pushed the line, because I was just on the few titles that people play on the radio or whatnot,
or you can get away with playing on the radio.
And so this they're heavily influenced by Black Flag, the Dead Kennedys, all the old punk stuff. They're very punky, but then they're super psychedelic, ton of Frank Zappa. And the best way I can describe it, people say Tame Impala is a psychedelic group or whatever,
right?
And
they don't know the half of it.
Well, it's I believe they've probably done some acid or done some shoots. These guys were on drugs.
These guys love drugs.
Yeah, these guys and their crowd was on drugs. This was all hell broke loose, and they let their minds go any way they wanted to it, and they would put it on paper. I mean, they were notorious for having just crazy acts on stage. I mean, the best way to describe them is like their performance art and their noise art and their it's like abstract music art where you go in and it's like and that's where it kind of blew my mind because they started playing in the 80s in 83 I believe, and the first hit was in 96, so they were probably like 39, 40 years old when they got the hit. But they were playing for like 10, 15 years beforehand. And
well, the two founders of the band, Gibby Haynes and Paul Leary, they were both born in 1957. So and they met at Trinity University. They were both students. I think Gibby was playing sports there, and Paul was advancing his degree, and he ended up going to business school for his MBA. And they met in the late 70s, and the band started in 1981, which is a long time ago. And certainly they were in a lot of those kind of undergroundy scenes for a long time before.
They lived there.
Yeah, they lived there, and I don't really think that they, broke through into any semblance of the mainstream until Independent Worm Saloon, which John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin came on as a producer for. So, but like that it just goes to show you, I mean, they spent 10 plus years like in the underground. It makes perfect sense that they would influence a lot of the other artists that either, were initially inspired by that underground sound. And, certainly the, some ostracized groups or, the have-nots or the misfits, of the crowd. It makes perfect sense that, they found some of their biggest supporters, in the music scene from people like that.
I thought John Paul Jones was with the Electric Larryland. I thought it was the first when Capitol signed them, and I thought maybe he was like,
maybe he did both. I don't know. Once again, first impressions here.
Yeah. But it's like, when I think about like the 80s and I listen to their stuff, I'm like, these guys, I mean, the sounds that they were playing with and doing, they're getting out of the guitars, the megaphones, like just literally pushing the barrier of sound. You can see it play out in all the music in the 90s. And like we'll get into it, all the bands that, loved and revered these guys and liked how weird they were. And like, it's funny because we were talking about it earlier where it's like all these bands that were influenced basically took like, the good parts about them and actually like made it a little bit more
scalable
palatable.
Parts. Yeah.
They made it more palatable where like, I mean, the Buttholes, they weren't trying to really make it big. They even said like they had a hit and it was terrible. They were like, they were trying to make them do certain things for their records. Cause like a lot of their records were just too raunchy to like, I mean, people weren't going to.
Well, clearly, I mean, I can't imagine, the linear radio stations in 85, like the newest song from the new Butthole Surfers album, which is called Rembrandt Pussy Horse. I don't know, if that's, that's the type of stuff that was going to break through to the mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's kind of funny too, because you were talking about like this is drugs basically.
Right.
So kind of a little tangent, but I think it ties in really well here. This week on the page, I've been posting a lot of Queens of the Stone Age, and I posted a Queens of the Stone Age song a few days ago, and somebody commented on it. It was the perfect comment. It was I posted the Queens of the Stone Age song "If I Had a Tail," and somebody commented. They were like, "Queens of the Stone Age." They're like, Queens of the Stone Age sounds like what I thought drugs felt like before I tried drugs. And I think that's perfectly true for Queens of the Stone Age. And Butthole Surfers are what I thought drugs felt like before I tried the other drugs. Like there's a line of demarcation here. And I think that sentiment applies perfectly to the Butthole Surfers as well.
Yeah. So like, a quick synopsis of their history, like their band was crazy. They had 1 million members because it was probably dysfunctional all the time. Like Gibby Haynes was at the front, and the other fella, like they were Paul Leary. Yeah, they were there for a while, but the band was always changing. They were always playing small stuff and doing like weird stuff, and like that was just kind of their history. They just like made whatever they wanted and they didn't care. And I think like we're talking about why people love Buzz is because he did that, but it was in a little different of a genre. And like, he did what he wanted and he wasn't controlled by the labels. And these guys were just like another band that was doing that. They like really didn't care for the success or it didn't seem like they did. They were just making it in different, they were just being experimental like all the time.
Yeah, they weren't in the game for that. And I think just reading the synopsis, and different accounts of their history, like the members were cycling in and out, like they probably went through 15 bass players, a bunch of different drummers over the time. But I just love how they started in Texas, found their way to California. They found a quick fan in the frontman of the Dead Kennedys, who kind of like jockeyed them to get their first stuff recorded in studio. But I think the thing that shines through for me just reading about them is how ridiculous and notable and infamous a lot of their live shows were. I mean, there was certainly vulgarity, there was fire, there was nudity, there was personal injury. There were various misdemeanors happening every other minute. And it's just like the type of stuff that, I don't know. I don't think that stuff happens anymore, to this degree in that underground scene. And, word of mouth travels, obviously. And, it traveled all up and down the West Coast, back over to Texas and every which way. And these guys were on the road. These guys were making crazy music. I don't even know, like, to quote, "I think you should leave." I don't know what any of this is, and I'm fucking scared. Like, this music is scary. I listen to music pretty much incessantly throughout the day as I work. Like, I'm one of those people that it doesn't distract me if there's music with, spoken lyrics in the background. But I've met my match this week with the Butthole Surfers. Like, I've been sitting there trying to working on different projects and whatnot. And like, all of a sudden my ears will catch whatever I'm listening to with the Butthole Surfers. I'm like, dude, I can't focus right now. Like, this is just captivating my attention. And that's what it is. Like, it's a spectacle, man.
That could have been punk. That could have been some like lo-fi electronic thing they were doing.
That's the crazy thing about
out-of-tune electric guitars.
Yeah, that's my first, the first thing I noticed about this band, because I started with, I just picked a couple of albums. So the first album that I listened to front to back was Locust Abortion Technician. And like, you truly...
Great album.
Yeah, fantastic album. Dude, it starts with Sweat Loaf. I mean, come on. You don't know what the next track is going to sound like. You don't know what the next part of a specific track is going to sound like. Like, any sort of blueprint that these guys might have been inspired by based off of the music they were listening to, they crumpled up and threw out the window and just did their own thing, which is remarkable. And it's so interesting, and it's very difficult for me to kind of wrap my arms around it.
Yeah, no, it's all over the map. And like when talking about all these genres, but stuff that people reference as very influential, but doesn't necessarily have the mainstream success. It's really hard for people to go back in history and understand the influence, because it's not like, say, objectively good, where it's like it's 50 years later, like, people are still listening to it. Or like the Beatles, like, people still listen to the Beatles and like, oh yeah, they're like very influential, like the music still stands. Like, this stuff that was going on at the time, I don't think it's not very fair for us to try to go in there and understand like the impact that
this was music of its time and place. Exactly.
Right. So I'm really, I'm trying, when I was listening, I'm putting myself in a third, a fly on the wall, and it was very scary to be in the room, but like, I can totally understand how they could be influencing the time, and like, and even all the animation, like, I mean, music videos were like kicking up, and they were doing these weird music videos, and we have like Beavis and Butthead, or like all the like the raunchy comedies that were coming out, like the Nickelodeon stuff. Like, it just seems like I can see all the influence from these guys, and I'm just gonna believe that to be true.
I mean, it's quintessential like late 80s, early 90s humor in a lot of this stuff. And I think something that I thought was really interesting, this band kind of broke through. I think Pepper topped like the mainstream rock chart, or what.
Pepper's a great song.
It's a fantastic song. Awesome. It's certainly one of their most commercially viable songs. So Letterman, late show with David Letterman, like he had such unbelievable guests throughout his run leading that show. And the Butthole Surfers made their network television debut performing Pepper on Letterman in 1996. And something that I thought was fascinating, like, I've always considered this to be like a band that was a product of Generation X. But as we were saying earlier, these guys were born in the late 50s. I mean, they could have been Gen X's fathers, so by the time they make the mainstream, they're pushing 40 years old. And, a lot of their fans at the time were teenagers, kind of getting turned on to some of this stuff through MTV perhaps, or through hearing Kurt Cobain speak fondly of it. Or, these guys toured at times with STP or Pearl Jam or L7. So I didn't expect them to be as old as they were and to have run the trail for as long as they did before they kind of broke through. And I thought that was really fascinating, that I think a lot of people, even those that are as informed or more informed than us, would kind of make that assumption that they were from that time and place, but they were really before that. And it makes sense that they had such an outsized impact on a lot of these guys. You know, Kurt Cobain counted the Butthole Surfers as among his favorite bands. And in his journals, which were published after his death, he made an account of the top 50 albums of all time. And he included 2 Butthole Surfers records on it. According to Kurt, the 10th best album of all time was their album PP the Sailor. And the 39th best album of all time was the aforementioned Locust Abortion Technician. And his obsession ran deep. I mean, he and Courtney Love actually met for the first time at a Butthole Surfers L7 show in 1991. So, I mean, this guy was in the trenches. I mean, Kim Thile was a fan of theirs, and, you know, is on record as being, you know, influenced by them. And, you know, everywhere, like there's
Buzz
different...
Osborne.
Yeah, everybody, man. Like, and just thinking, like, I looked back to see all of the bands that, you know, the Butthole Surfers, you know, played on various bills with or toured with. And, you know, they were on the Lollapalooza circuit in 1991. And there's some really good video of that. But, you know, just kind of like a who's who of certainly a lot of the music that we like to talk about. They've played with Green River, Sonic Youth, Firehose, Skin Yard, Nirvana, L7, Tad, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, The Flaming Lips, Toadies, and Daniel Johnston. I mean, that's running the gamut of like everybody who influenced the people that we love around, you know, these parts of the Grunge Bible podcast. And, you know, these guys looked up to them. I mean, there's a reason, for example, why Nirvana was stoked to play with them, or why Pearl Jam went on tour with them, or why STP opened so many dates for them. And Daniel Johnston too. I mean, that guy is just as influential as anybody. And, you know, these guys were all kind of, they couldn't have occupied more different genres or more different styles. But like, I just think that uninhibited creativity and having no fear to be a little bit weird, I think, is the commonality between a lot of this stuff. And, you know, it makes perfect sense, having never listened to the Butthole Surfers really prior to this week, like, makes perfect sense that Kurt loved them. Like, I hear a lot of this kind of weirdness in some of the stuff that Nirvana did. And certainly Kurt, you know, his demeanor, his humor, as well as showed up throughout Nirvana's discography. You know, there's a lot of through lines here that I'm kind of tracing back through the ages with it.
Oh yeah, I mean Nirvana. I mean, definitely Kurt being a fan makes a ton of sense. I mean, Incesticide and all the you know, innuendos that he has in his music.
Like,
and
come on,
yeah, like it makes total sense that he was influenced by, you know, whatever the scene was going on during the time, and you can hear it in the guitar work too, and the sounds and the chaos when they were like their earlier stuff when they were just super chaotic. I mean, those 2 albums that you referenced were. One was in 83 and one was 87. They were like both, you know, really early, you know, early on, and when, you know, the Buttholes were actually young. So they were like probably their most crazy, you know, and doing the most weird stuff. And yeah, and, you know, in 92, they would have been like 35, 36 touring with these guys. So they were like, people were probably, you know, they were looking up to them in a lot of ways. And
yeah, dude. Well, that's what happens too. Like, even as a fan, like somebody breaks through the mainstream or breaks through on MTV. It's like, oh, you know, have you heard about this new band, the Butthole Surfers? Like, they have the song Pepper. Like, well, not exactly new. They've been a band for 15 years by that point. And like, you see that from time to time now with some of these bands. And we've even had that discovery about a lot of the grunge bands that we talk about. Like, you know, you listen to Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden, you realize, you know, that's their 10th year as a band or 11th year as a band. And, you know, there's so much early history, you know, and these guys toured with Green River, for example, which was like, you know, pre Pearl Jam influences and pre Mudhoney. You know, these guys kind of go back to the source. And it's kind of funny too, because like, you know, forming in 81, they even predate the whole hair metal thing. You know, so it's not like they were you know, an alternative to that or a response to that. Like, they were doing their thing for a few years before hair metal kind of took its hold.
Yeah. Yeah. They they were just doing it, right? They were getting drug. They were drugging everybody and doing drugs and playing music.
LSD with cornflakes for breakfast, man.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll talk a little bit about pop around for the few songs and maybe like touch on like an album or two. And I think, you know, the Locust Abortion Technician, right? This is the 1987 album. It's at the 2 like clowns holding a dog, like very scary type stuff. But like, I think this was the one that I think got a lot of attention and led to them getting the ability to work with John Paul Jones and and doing Electric
catapult into
Larryland. Yeah.
yeah.
And this one opens up with a song that we like, a version of a song that we love, and that's Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath. But they do some covers that I guess people really like their covers. And it's called Sweat Loaf. It's the first one on the album, and it starts like there's like
Well,
ambiance for like 20 seconds, and then there's a kid.
asks his father about regret, and the father says, "Well, son, a funny thing about regret is that it's better to regret something you have done than to regret something you haven't done."
And by the way, if you see your mom, tell her
Satan.
And it, like it just starts off this album with the weird, and then it goes into the Sweet Leaf riff, and it's
They're
like
good, man.
and it's like a badass riff. I mean, they're good musicians at time, like they're pushing the boundaries, doing some weird stuff, but like artistically, if you can like, it's a practice. It's definitely like you have to go in there and be like, all right, I'm gonna really, this isn't my normal sound. And maybe it is for people out there, and you already know them, because like you posted them, and looking through the comments, people are like, everybody's referencing a different album, how it's their favorite and stuff. And, there's definitely it's a cult following.
Well, there's two thoughts I have here. The old running gag about Primus that people say, like, they're unbelievably talented musicians playing terribly. Like, Butthole Surfers are unbelievably talented musicians playing as weirdly as they possibly can. Yeah. Like, I feel like that was the one intent. And the other thing that I'm thinking about too, like, a lot of our audience skews towards that, like, 35 to 50 age group that was, they were teenagers in the 90s and they grew up with a lot of this stuff. And I'm so interested to know, because there was a time where, our audience was discovering this band for the first time. And I would love to know how similar our first impressions are compared to what their first impressions were in the early 90s. And just like, the way that's framed, it's always fascinating to me, because like, I don't know like how these guys were received back then.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Like I said, our musical identity and landscape obviously started around 2005 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I would say so.
And the music that, we took in for the music that was going around currently, like that's what you're comparing.
My line
stuff
in the
to.
sand is always Green Day's American Idiot. Like that was one of the first albums I was like, this is good. I'm into this. And like Linkin Park's Meteora,
Yeah. And this is like so far from that, and so far from like the idea that they could be, it's just like the idea that punk rock was like the most important genre for a long time, and the way people were angsty and punky came out in their music, like this stuff, when compared to what else was going on in the 80s, like maybe it wasn't that weird, you know what I mean? It wasn't as weird, and it wasn't as like far-fetched to think that they were doing this. I mean, people were listening to Zappa for a while, or the psychedelic phase. Everybody was doing psychedelics in the 60s and 70s. So it's just a different type of, a whole different scene to move around. So yeah, I think it's really hard. And I'd love to hear I'd love to hear those stories.
Yeah, because I mean, this whole discography is just an assault on both the senses and the soul, I would say. I had the thing last week where we were listening to the Melvins every single day. I'm like, how is this going to change me as a person? And that changed me as a person, but not in the ways that this band has, man.
The potential,
yeah, because you had sent, we decided to do this episode, and you sent me Sweat Loaf from Locust Abortion Technician. I just dropped the needle and played that whole thing through, and dude, like. Oh, I don't even know like where to go. Like Pittsburgh to Lebanon, human cannibal, cunts, dude. Like
the cunts, the graveyard part 2.
So we're not cursing,
22 go we're cursing's out apparently. but it's funny because you drop it on that first one, like, all right, that was a little weird intro, but these guys rip. Or you listen to Pepper, or you listen to like Dracula in Houston or something, which is like the 90s.
Hairway to Steven, dude.
Yeah, you just tell they do funny. I mean, all the titles are weird, but like you have those few introductory songs that are like normal kind of, but then like the wheels come off, and like it's like I said, it's like an assault on your eardrums with sound.
Yeah, dude.
And but like I said, when I was doing that, I could hear, I hear all the influence on Nirvana, like some Stone Temple Pilots. Like you brought up Beck. I think Beck is a great example. Like
I listened to Pepper and I immediately heard Beck.
Right. Definitely Pepper. Yeah. And the Electric Larryland, that's like their biggest, album, I guess. And I mean, obviously Pepper is a great song, and I really like it, but their one song, Let's Talk About Cars.
Let's talk about cars. Yeah.
I love it. It has like this, I mean, it's like has two people talking in French over like a lo-fi like guitar type thing, and I hear a lot of like the influence it had on electro and techno music, and I don't know, man. I'm probably giving these guys a lot more credit than they probably deserve.
Not a chance, man. I
But
think
like
I think you're
I
dead
really
on.
honestly believe that this like renaissance of sound that they were a part of, like I mean it set up the stage for grunge and the whole like scene and like rock, and I'm just like we were talking about the Dead and the Bob Weir the past week, and talking about these other like other bands, jazz and it's just so influenced by each other. Like there's so many like little like trees and tributaries that go into like what makes a genre itself. There's so much jazz and rock and roll, or there's so much, I don't know, sound
Yeah,
and
dude.
hip
Well, I
hop.
think
It's
like
just fun to
every
look
every
at.
10 or 15 years there's a band that comes along that like more than pushes the envelope. I mean, they rip the envelope up and throw it away. And like I think this is one of those bands, and I think like they if they didn't influence people stylistically, I think they influenced people to kind of push the envelope with you know, the way that they sounded or the things that they wanted to get away with doing on a record. Like I don't know if this is gonna land, but like I couldn't help but think about how like the band Presidents of the United States of America is like a neutered version of the Butthole Surfers in terms of like the
Yeah.
absurdity that they present their lyrics with and the way, you know, some of their songs sound. But, you know, I would love to have a crystal ball and like, you know, just like be able to check in on like a lot of my favorite musicians to know if they if they were listening to this stuff or if they thought
Yeah.
about this stuff or if they, you know, if they used it as a blueprint or if they were encouraged by it to like get a little bit weird. And
Yeah.
I did want to talk
Well, like
about
you
like,
said, they played with them all, right? So
yeah, they
maybe
were in the mix, dude.
they didn't like seek them out, but they still were like on the bills and they were at the festivals and they were like, so you get like, I mean, just so much like conversation about around it. That people were talking about their performances because they were weird, and I mean, like, yeah, it's just like it was just a part of the scene.
Yeah, dude. And even like, you know, they were on Lollapalooza, the Lollapalooza tour in 1991, alongside bands such as Jane's Addiction, Living Color, Nine Inch Nails, Ice-T, the Rollins Band, Fishbone. Just like the juxtaposition between some of that stuff is really really unbelievable, and that's what like what we're talking about with like the late 80s, and certainly like, you know, we talk a lot about obviously about the grunge scene, but like the diversity of music that was available, even sometimes like Lollapalooza in the same exact space, is really unfathomable. And I think it's not like that anymore. And you know, there were all of these different little subsets and, you know, subgroups of people that really dug some of the stuff and, you know, maybe didn't dig some of the other stuff, but yeah, I don't know, just like ping ponging around the discography, like I did notice a change, you know, from their stuff in the 80s into the 90s. I think they got a little bit heavier with Independent Worm Saloon and maybe like a little bit more easily understandable, but it's still really really strange. Like the first song, one of them that's becoming a fast favorite of mine in their discography is Who Was in My Room Last Night. And once again, like these guys love doing weird intros, and like this is another one with like this like super high pitched voice that's like, I'm flying like I'm flying like
Yeah.
it's just like I started playing, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then it breaks way into something that's actually really damn cool. And another song that I really liked from that record was the fourth song, Chewing George Lucas's Chocolate. And like that's what we're saying, like there's no way to come up with this stuff other than drugs in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it, man. And it doesn't surprise me like reading about their history with like how they would tour, their recording conditions, their living conditions, that like, you know, they couldn't hold on to members, you know, particularly long outside of some of the core members. But this is a trip, man.
Yeah, you talk about listening to Melvins every day and it changing your life. Like, I mean, I'd spent like, I listened to like 2 albums straight yesterday of these guys, and I think I changed, and probably not a good way. Like,
Yeah.
it pushes like it would be like doing drugs and listening to this would be scary. Going to a concert would be really scary.
Oh yeah, dude.
And like that's what they're exploring, those thoughts and like that like those realms of the brain that I think people don't want to like think about. I don't know. They're just like going into it like head on. The song "My Brother's Wife" off of Electric Land is like, and it's just like really like deep sound and like drum track behind it, and then just kind of like murmuring the whole time. It's literally like half of these songs. It's like it sounds like what like a schizophrenic person would have playing in their head at all times.
Yes. Yeah,
Like, you know,
100%.
some like just like weird. It's like literally, it's like just a thought train process, like whatever you're like the monkey clapping the, you know, the cymbals in your brain and like the sounds. And I like it, dude. I do.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's good. Like I definitely wrote down when you have a band like this that's hard to get into. I mean, you cannot go too deep into their archive and expect to understand it, right? The best way, like, I mean, same with, you know, say the Melvins and stuff. You need to take the introductory level course. Like, you need to listen to Pepper. You need to listen to like Electric Land and like see some of their performances. And then like, I think the next time I were to go back and listen to, like, I'm gonna have a much better understanding, or at least the best understanding I can have. And I think I'll start to
So there's
appreciate
an
it a
upper
little
limit
bit.
to this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm at my limit, you know,
Yeah, who's to
maybe
say,
I
man?
should be, right? But it was a lot of fun. I like definitely getting weird with it. Like, I enjoy that aspect of music. I definitely like looking at it as art and like, you know, if it's like, can I push myself to like this really weird sound? Like what
Yeah.
people do. So it's like, what do they hear that I don't like? How can you find appreciation for it? Because it's different. It's different than like people that are playing music or making music solely to be like on TikTok or solely to be a hit, and it's like very catchy and they're not writing it.
Or
Somebody
solely to
else
get
is writing
signed to a
it.
major label, you know?
Yeah, like that is not really interesting. And then like this stuff, it's like, okay, this is kind of hard to listen to, but you know, it's like they created it with everything they have. You know, it's like they tried really hard, or maybe they didn't try at all, but like it's like an expression of them. So I don't know. It's like a big challenge, but I think it's like I said, it's abstract art.
Well, I
Like
always think too,
that's what
like,
it is.
I think like
It's a challenge.
your music listening ability, I think is like a muscle that you need to exercise and you need to introduce new stimulus to it. So like, I think it's too early to tell still for me, like whether or not I will enjoy the Butthole Surfers for a prolonged period of time. But like, I think you need to listen to stuff that challenges you, in terms of like the complexity or even just like how weird it is, or in the Butthole Surfers case, like both the complexity and the weirdness. Like, I think like that exposure to stuff that is like so far off the beaten path of what you would listen to or what you think you would enjoy,
Yeah.
it's important. Like, it grows your view of art. And like, I think the more outside the box you can be, and the more, you know, the fewer barriers you have in terms of recognizing like what is and what isn't art, I think the better off you're going to be as a listener, and the more open-minded you're going to be. And if nothing else, for me, this band is a very good case study in that.
Yeah, it is, and it's fun. I find a lot of joy watching those crazy performances like Lollapalooza and just seeing the chaos on stage.
Not
I
only
don't know
that,
what.
man, these guys covered Hurdy Gurdy Man by Donovan and The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they covered they did a bunch of stuff that was like, you know, fun. Like, um, it's funny. Last night I was showing Matt. I was like, oh, we were out to get wings and beer, and I told him a few things. I was like, it was like talking about the Butthole Surfers, and like, you know, they really were influential. They're really weird. They didn't have the staying power. I explain this, and we go home to look it up, and I type in Butthole into YouTube.
Oh,
And
God.
and of course, Butthole Surfers didn't pop up because they
Yeah,
probably like scrubbed
vulgarity.
it. But the first thing that came up was Buttholectomy, and it was a band. And Matt was like, "We got to click on it." And I was like, "All right." So we put on. There's a band called Buttholectomy. Free shout out to them. But it was this super heavy band, and they had like an interview. We clicked around, but they described their music as like it's like the genre is called beatdown, which, you know, is like it's like death heavy metal. It's like, I don't know, there's so many like metal versions. I don't know. It took me to another. I was like, there is so much, you know, different genres, and like the extremes of like, people know heavy metal, but there's like the extreme of that. It's like, you know, there's a very small amount of people that, you know, can get into it. and then with like psychedelic stuff, like this is like pushing the boundaries of like the psychedelic. How psychedelic can you get when you talk about it in music?
Yeah,
So,
man.
butthole
Oh my God. Yeah. This episode is as much of a, first thoughts throwing up against the wall and seeing what sticks as it is a call out to our glorious and informed listeners, like where we should go next with this band, or if there's songs that we haven't name dropped, or if there's records that we haven't listened to. Like I haven't gotten into some of their later stuff. Like I haven't even listened to Weird Revolution or Humpty Dumpty LSD yet. So there could be some hidden gems out there, like some of the titles from Humpty Dumpty LSD, the second track, 100 million people dead. Just a boy, heteroskeleton, Gandhi, I hate my job. You never know which one of these is going to be the one that winds your clock.
Yeah, the Weird Revolution, that album, like they definitely, after Pepper came out, they kind of moved into that more Beck type of like sound and a little bit more coherent. And I think
maybe we should have started there.
Yeah, no, I think we went. Yeah, exactly. We went to the weird stuff, but
yeah,
there's some more palatable.
We're still taking those 400 and 500 level courses,
400 and 500 milligram doses.
Exactly. Exactly, man.
The thing is, dude, the weird stuff is what made him important.
Yeah, dude, it gave him a lot of notoriety.
The 2001 album doesn't get talked about as much as the Locust Abortion Technician and whatnot. That's what made Kurt Cobain a fan.
Yeah,
They basically gave birth to Nirvana.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, without the Butthole Surfers, Nirvana doesn't exist, Pearl Jam doesn't exist, the Grunge Bible podcast doesn't exist. You never know where that butterfly effect is going to take you.
Yeah. And yeah, we can't rule it out. I know that.
We cannot, man.
But it's funny. I'm listening to Shame of Life right now, and it's good, man. It's a vibe. I mean, it's good stuff. So
yeah, maybe we should have dropped acid before we did this episode.
Yeah, I think we should have a Patreon get together.
Absolutely,
get everybody in the same room and we'll watch some live concert. Yeah. Only King Buzza stole my haircut. We'll have him bring us the stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
yeah, man, the Butthole Surfers. We've officially been baptized.
Yeah. So,
or we've officially been dosed.
Yeah, go check them out. Like, have some fun. Get in there.
Or reconnect. I know some of you are out there listening, and you haven't listened to the Butthole Surfers since you were a lad. And now's the time to get weird again and reconnect. A lot of people in their 40s or 50s or beyond. It's not socially acceptable to get weird anymore because you have children or jobs or responsibilities. Yeah. But I think every now and then you got to get a little weird.
I totally agree, dude. You got to get weird. And this is a great place to start.
Better believe it.
Yeah, it's funny. You gotta stay weird, dude. So, I mean, like I said, I like the band. I'm giving it a good rating. I don't know, B plus for whatever.
Yeah, I'd give it a solid 87%, which is a B plus. So we'll take it.
All right, man. That's it. We did it. I think we said everything we needed to say.
Our Butthole Surfers.
We'll report back with more next time. Now we'll start talking about the anniversaries of the albums, and we can do song by song next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. This was ground zero for sure. And I like this trend that we've been on the past couple of weeks of going to the earlier days.
I think next.
I think I'd like to keep that going. I heard some rumors that we might do a Deep Six episode here pretty soon. I feel like that might have to get into the U-Men a little bit.
The U-Men, exactly.
Might have to get into a deep biography of Pat Smear, perhaps.
You know that the Butthole Surfers has a song called The O-Men.
Oh, dude. Tee me up, man. I'm ready to go.
But yeah, the U-Men, all this stuff. I definitely, like I said, we're pushing boundaries here. We're getting down to the bottom of the, not bottom of the barrel as far as stuff
quality,
about,
but bottom.
The bottom of the pyramid, the base.
Exactly.
We're getting to the base of it all.
That's the analogy we're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, everybody. For my song of the week, I think I'm gonna have to go with Kuntz Cunts by
Oh, yeah.
by Butthole Surfers.
Absolutely.
It's electric. It's pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
Kuntz.
Let's make that a Locust Abortion Technician double shot. My song of the week is going to be Sweat Loaf.
Great song. That's where you start, and then you listen to Pepper afterwards to cleanse your palate.
Exactly. I've been doing that. I've been
Reminding myself where it's like
4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. I need to catch my breath with some pepper.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. Thanks for listening.
Thank you to Drew.
Thanks, Drew
McFadden, our wonderful producer, doing a great job. And thank you to the listener. You guys are the reason we do this. And we talk about
I love how you said thank you to the listener. There's only going to be one for this episode.
It's Gibby Haynes.
Oh, yeah. He's out there, man.
Oh, man. All right. That's it for today. Thank you.
That's it. Rock and roll. Stay heavy and stay weird.
And I was going to say stay weird. Today it's all about being weird. Get in there, dude. See ya.
Better believe it. Hands are.